Tonight, MPs have been voting on border security, with the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, saying people smuggling gangs have been allowed to take hold. What's happened tonight, Nick? I did it in the wrong inflection, sorry.
Here it is. Can we see it? This is the bill, this is the piece of legislation.
Because the voting did finish not that long ago.
I bring you breaking news. Can you believe it? A government with a large majority has got this through its second reading. But it's quite interesting just to look at the voting. So in the first vote, they voiced their concerns with great care, but they clearly did voice their concerns. But interesting, you're saying Yvette Cooper presenting it, she's saying, you know, this bill delivers on the Labour manifesto commitment to bringing counter-terrorism style powers to increase enforcement and returns. And as this bill was being introduced over the weekend, we've had these videos which have shown the returns. These are only a tiny number of the returns of people who came over on the boats. But from the moment that you are sort of taken into custody as you're working illegally to the moment that you get on the aeroplane, the government is saying that just under 19,000 people have been deported since the party entered government in July, which is the highest number in any 6-month period to do that. And we're seeing all those pretty dramatic pictures today.
We're going to hear from the Conservatives, their Shadow Home Secretary, in a second. We'll hear from Joe White from Labour in a second, who was voting tonight, and from Tim Montgomery, who is a Reform supporter. Luke Trill, can I just ask you, where are the public right now when it comes to trust in which party, if any, on tackling illegal immigration?
We're seeing for Nigel Farage both in the run-up to the general election and afterwards.
OK. Joe White, in terms of this bill, one of the criticisms of it is that it doesn't deal with the demand from people who are prepared to get on a flimsy, dangerous boat and cross the channel. It focuses on law enforcement powers. What is there in this bill that would deter people from wanting to get into a boat in the first place?
Legislation that makes it a crime if you're caught actually assisting in the transmission of illegal migrants across.
Sure, and that's all the law enforcement stuff.
Exactly.
I still don't hear what the deterrent is.
But also, we've just appointed at the beginning of the government, we appointed the border commander.
That's not.
Laws are different. I think it's, you know,
like
the television images that we've just been seeing are largely a message for British audience.
Yes,
we need to communicate. You've been TikToking, etc. this evening. We need to communicate in the most stark ways, in the way that Trump is, with the militarisation of how he's expelling illegal migrants from America. We need to make it absolutely clear that this is going to happen.
Sure. What I'm asking you is, and it's fine if you don't know the answer.
The question that please, you just put on deterrent is the key thing.
No, I'm asking you, how would Reform do it? Do they have a plan? You may not know what that plan is. That's fine if you don't. I'm just asking if you do.
No. I'm trying to say that your persistent question to Joe about there being a deterrent, Rwanda wasn't really ever going to work.
So what would be reforms?
Okay,
what would be reforms deterrent then?
What Reform need to come up with, and I don't think they've got it yet, is a policy that has the elements of Rwanda, these things by agreement. And I also think probably the Royal Navy wouldn't cooperate with such a policy.
Right. So when you say we need to take, or Reform needs to take lessons from Trump in terms of militarisation, you don't mean that, really?
Well, I do, but you just need the military on side. You can't use the military in a way that they aren't happy to, you know, with the courts.
Okay. Well, of course, we do back measures to sort out the criminal gangs. And in fact, some of the measures in this bill we legislated for previously. But this bill also contains other measures we profoundly disagree with. For example, it completely removes the legal basis for the Rwanda deterrent, which I believe would have worked. A deterrent works. I mean, it's common sense, right? If you're in France and if you cross the channel by small boat and you've got a pretty good chance of ending up being sent to Rwanda, or if it's safe back to your country of origin, then you're not going to cross if you're in France already.
How scared are you of Reform?
I wouldn't say we're scared of Reform. Interestingly, during the debate today, no Reform MP even bothered attempting to speak in this 4.5, 5 hour debate, which I thought was quite interesting.
What point are you making now?
The point I'm making is that Reform are interested in slogans, and those slogans can be superficially attractive. But when it comes to doing the detailed work of how we're going to make changes to control our borders, acknowledging that mistakes were made in the past, we've been very honest about that, but we're now doing the detailed work to get this problem fixed. The government certainly aren't doing it. We announced a policy last week on making it much harder to get indefinite leave to remain. We've got very carefully argued amendments we're going to make to this bill. We're doing the detailed, thoughtful, careful work required to sort this problem out. Reform are great with slogans, but when it comes to the real hard work, we don't see them.
So you're not scared at all of reform?
No, I wouldn't say I'm scared of them. Look, we're obviously respectful of the public who feel they may want to lend reform their vote. We're respectful of those people who are feeling that way, and we want to win back their trust and confidence, which we know is not going to be easy, but by having carefully thought out, credible plans like the indefinite leave to remain proposals last week, making it much harder to get indefinite leave unless you've actually made a contribution to British society, those kind of carefully thought through ideas, I think we can win back trust. That's the approach we're taking.
Chris Philp, Shadow Home Secretary, thank you very much for talking to Newsnight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go back to Labour MP for Bassett Law, Joe White, who is at Westminster. I want to put this to you. It's from Diane Abbott, one of your Labour MPs. She says, she warns essentially that your Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, is in danger of stigmatising desperate migrants rather than building a fair system. What do you say to Diane Abbott?
The deportations to date, those stats might have been a record number in recent years, haven't cut through to the public at all. In fact, we tested awareness of a series of Labour measures and policies, and that actually came right down at the bottom. So the public aren't hearing it, and that perhaps explains Keir's frustration that Nick was talking about. And the other thing you've got is you've got a very powerful image the other way. The image of small boats crossing the channel is something that sticks in voters' minds and upsets them because it goes against those principles of fairness, following the rules, having the right system.
Form come up with these simple slogans, but actually they don't have a plan.
Well, the main source of immigration into our country is legal migration.
Yes, but we're talking about illegal. We're talking about illegal tonight.
But I'm saying the context is the overall level of migration and its impact on housing, on public services. That can be controlled by the stroke of a pen. And that's why the will, what a politician actually believes matters. You're right to ask about the policy detail. But everyone watching this programme knows that Nigel Farage is serious about migration. I'm afraid most other politicians have kept making promises and kept breaking them. That's the difference.
Right, let's have a look at the front pages of some of tomorrow's newspapers. The Nigel Farage.
Well, as we've already heard, Nigel Farage doesn't have any answers. We all know what he's against, and the only thing that we know that he's for is privatisation of the NHS.
Well, he said in PMQs last week he wasn't, but anyway. Let me bring in Luke Trill. You know the footage of the raids, which we've seen today. Does that cut through to voters?
Rwanda, or if it's safe back to your country of origin, then you're not going to cross if you're in France already.
2024, you brought in the Safety of Rwanda Act, which was supposed to send people to Rwanda, as we know, for processing. You said it would deter people from crossing the channel in small boats. It failed. Is there in this bill that would deter people from wanting to get into a boat in the first place?
What we have to do is smash the gangs, so the physical ability of getting in those boats just stops.
But when you hit one gang, then another one pops up.
Oh, yes,
I mean, it is like whack-a-mole.
I totally agree, it's whack-a-mole. But
So what would deter, put the gangs to one side, because there'll always be a gang. What would deter people from getting in the boat? What pushes the demand away?
The key is, if they do get across, that we process them quickly and we return them.
That's not a deterrent, is it?
It is, because there's no place in this country if you're an illegal migrant. That's the point.
I thought you wanted to stop them getting in the boats in the first place because it's dangerous.
That's the key. What we have to smash. We have to smash the gangs. And for example, we've been working with our international partners. We've been to Iraq. That's where most of the gangs are originating from, and we have deals with the Iraqi government in order to smash them there. We're working with other partners, such as the German government. In partnership with them, they've just brought in legislation that makes it a crime if you're caught actually assisting in the transmission of illegal migrants across.
Sure, and that's all the law enforcement stuff.
Exactly.
I still don't hear what the deterrent is.
But also, we've just appointed at the beginning of the government, we appointed the border commander.
That's not a deterrent either.
But it's
he does
how
strategy.
effective. But it's how effective we are in smashing those gangs, because that's the mechanism by which people are brought. If we smash the gangs, then we actually stop that mechanism of bringing people across.
Do you think you can smash all the gangs?
I agree. It's a tough cookie. It really is. I accept that, but we've got to do it, and we're determined to do so.